And in parallel, we had to look at where we're spending our time from a dev point of view. As I mentioned, we're spending 95% of our time putting out fires, and you can't just shut that tap off, because if you shut that tap off, we're going to lose those 2 customers and the one in POV, right? Because we're not servicing them. So that's a really hard conundrum. So the first thing I looked at was, right, I need to bring in a CTO who I'd worked with before, a technologist that I could trust, because I could see that having 25,000 lines of code across one product and then another product and another product was just completely unmanageable. So I brought in Andrew, a CTO I'd worked with at a company called Sandstone before, and he joined me. And one of the first things we identified together is that actually we need to re-engineer our entire data ingestion capability to free up our dev capacity to start looking forward. That process probably took a little bit longer than I would have thought. But at the end of that process, when you do invest in that and you do build from the ground up and do it right, we've got an amazing data ingestion engine now powered by AI and machine learning. Probably didn't want to build it back then, but it's serving us really well now. We've got the really good foundations to continue to scale and grow. The other aspect I did was, from a product perspective, I had to bring in someone I trusted from a product perspective who could wrap their arms around what was our product doing back then versus where did it need to get to. So I brought on a guy I'd worked with at Afterpay, a guy named Alex Wood, and we set about also re-engineering how do we prioritize features from a product perspective and how do we rationalize down to that one single code base. That took also a lot longer than I would have thought. I would have thought we could do that in sort of 3 to 6 months. To be all honesty, it probably took a year, because at the same time, we've got to fund the business and bring on new customers. So it probably within those first 6 months, we won Lenovo. Now, Lenovo's a very, very big customer. They had massive amounts of data, stuff that would break us immediately. And in parallel, we had to re-engineer our whole tech stack to cater for their volume while bringing them on board. So that also derailed some of our plans to merge down to that single code base. But it's really just about going, right, I've got to continue to win customers, improve my product, because we're on a limited funding regime. How do you do that while onboarding customers and setting your product and proposition up for scale? And a lot of that's about, how do I manage cash flow? How do I get rockstar talent on board? Like, I'm a big fan of, when you're hiring devs, hire one rockstar, because one rockstar will equal 4 to 6 normal devs. So if you get the right one, I call them a one-man army. And I'm sure there's a lot of other different terms that many SaaS founders call them. But if you spend the time recruiting them, and it might take you 3 months to 4 months to 5 months to find them, and you've got to sift through 400 different applicants, it's worth it in the end. It is really worth it in the end, and they dividends later on. Like, I remember looking at how many story points we used to do a sprint. Might have been 6 to 8 back then. That was including bugs, which is really low, right? And now we're up to well over 100 in one particular product area. So I think keeping a real lens on where are you spending your time and effort from a dev perspective is really, really important.